3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
From the Play Show, yet not overly ostentatious studios of CBS Sports Radio here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to a Tuesday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all the great local CBS Sports Radio affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course streaming on YouTube, youtube.com/CBS Sports Radio. 855-212-4CBS number to jump on in, 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. Jordan Schultz, NFL insider for Bleacher Report. He's going to join us coming up at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. Do have Moist Mike and also Stuart Kovacs rocking and rolling with me all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Okay, let's start off with actually a piece of information from NFL insider Jordan Schultz, who's going to join us later today. And he has said that Dak Prescott, who's in the final year of his contract with the Dallas Cowboys, he could actually command a contract this offseason worth up to $60 million a year. And if that happens, I will fall on the floor, I will roll over, and I will probably suffocate myself in terms of just how much laughter I will have. I'll suffocate myself in laughter. Now, I understand you don't need to be a great quarterback to get great quarterback money. A lot of times, good quarterbacks or very good quarterbacks command great quarterback money. But the Dallas Cowboys just simply can't pay Dak Prescott $60 million a year. There has to be a fine line here. And I know the salary cap keeps on increasing and keeps on growing exponentially, and it's the most important position in sports is the quarterback position. And I know that a lot of Cowboys fans will call me up at 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227, and they'll say, Zach, but if you don't give Dak Prescott this contract, what are you going to do at the quarterback position? It's a fair argument. And that's why we're in this conundrum here where good quarterbacks get great quarterback money. And Dak Prescott, let's be honest with our assessment about him. He had a fantastic regular season. He was dreadful in the playoffs. But think about it. The Cowboys would be potentially paying this guy $60 million a year. And you can't even guarantee yourself with Dak Prescott. Forget a Super Bowl. Forget a Super Bowl appearance. You can't even guarantee them a spot in the NFC title game. Because this organization, the last time they made the NFC title game was in the 1995 season. But Dak could potentially become a $60 million man this offseason. And this is only football, where when you say that, it is absurd, it's ludicrous, and it's just so foolish. But usually when something is absurd, ludicrous, and foolish, you would go, oh, it won't happen. Yeah, I fully anticipate this to happen. Because the Cowboys are in a tough spot where you probably shouldn't double down, but they enter the final year of his contract, and his cap hit for this upcoming season is almost $60 million. So in one breath, you know you shouldn't give him a contract worth $60 million a year, but in another breath, you're like, yeah, we can't go into this season with the cap hit being almost $60 million. So the Cowboys are screwed. Because when you look at Dak, he's a good quarterback. There are a ton of teams that would rather have Dak Prescott than their current quarterback, but he's never a quarterback that evokes a big-time feel or a quarterback that you expect is going to kick your ass come playoff time. And we have now seen it multiple times. Against San Francisco a few years ago, team got off to a terrible start. Dak is driving at the end of the game. They couldn't even get the ball snapped. Then we saw 2 years ago, the defense was championship caliber, and the offense, after they lost Tony Pollard, couldn't do anything. Dak had multiple turnovers in that game. And then this past year, I can't put it all on Dak. The entire team didn't show up. But Dak Prescott allowed a younger quarterback in Jordan Love, who doesn't have nearly as much experience as Dak Prescott had, to come into his house and basically make Dak Prescott's house Jordan Love's home. So I'm at a point where Dak Prescott, like, you ask me who Dak Prescott is like, he's basically Kirk Cousins, who you could put up solid regular season numbers, really good regular season numbers. You could talk me into him being a great quarterback because of the numbers, but your eyes tell you that Dak Prescott is not a great quarterback. And there is never a belief that Dak Prescott is going to lead a team into the Final Four of the NFL. And if you think about it, you look at this year, It was as open as it's ever going to be just for the Cowboys, bare minimum, to get to the Final Four. And they couldn't even get out of the first round, right? You had the Eagles collapsing. You had the 49ers clearly being the best team. The Lions had a heck of a team. But outside of that, like, what were you really intimidated about? The Dallas Cowboys were the 2 seed. The 2 seed, let me remind you, after getting a gift from the officials in the Lions game. That should have been enough for the Dallas Cowboys this year to win 2 playoff games. And they couldn't even do that. They couldn't even win 1 playoff game. And I'm not setting the bar high here. I'm not asking for a lot. All I am saying is, if you couldn't get to the NFC title game this year, what makes me think that Dak Prescott is going to get to it in future years? There is something called it. And right, even Steve Young said before the start of the season, Brock Purdy has it. Brock Purdy has the force. Dak's good, but Dak doesn't have the force. Dak doesn't have it. I'm never expecting Dak to get to an NFC title game. And that's a problem where now when it comes to the quarterback position, we're all in agreement that we know the salaries are stupid and we know great players or guys that are good players are getting great players money, and we all just kind of accept it. Because the other side is, well, what do you do if you get rid of Dak? And that thought of fear and that thought of the unknown scares the crap out of these owners, and it makes these owners give a guy like Dak Prescott, in all likelihood, $60 million this offseason, which I don't understand how the Cowboys can do it, right? When you hear $60 million to Dak Prescott, your heart just gets like set on fire. Your gut saying, what the heck are you doing? But then your brain goes, that's just what happens in the NFL. But we shouldn't just operate and just say, oh yeah, that's what happens. And you look at the other average annual value salaries right now at the quarterback position. Joe Burrow is the highest AAV player, $55 million a year. So even though the salary cap is going up, how are we going from in this offseason where you enter the offseason, Joe Burrow is the highest paid quarterback at $55 million a year, and now Dak's going to get $60 million a year potentially, according to Jordan Schultz? It just doesn't make any damn sense. Now, I know this topic infuriates Samter. Samter has made it abundantly clear, and he's been dead on, that it is absurd and it is surreal that we pay quarterbacks this much money when they aren't worth it. So I will just open up the floor to Samter, and I just want your reaction when you hear this report from Jordan Schultz, who's going to join us later at 5 p.m. Eastern, that Dak Prescott might command a contract worth up to $60 million per year this offseason. Go ahead, have it.
I love Dak. I like Dak as a quarterback. I love Dak as a person and as a player in general. Mm-hmm. It would be the dumbest. The Cowboys would never, ever even sniff the NFC Championship game. The amount of money that they would be tying up in Dak and therefore losing out on signing guys like Micah or DeMarcus Lawrence or, Travion Diggs. They're going to lose out on all their star talent around Dak. And what makes the Cowboys great right now, what makes the Cowboys a 10, 12 win team year in and year out, it's not Dak. Dak is definitely an above average quarterback, but it's their defense, it's their run game, it's their O-line, and it's their skill players. Dak doesn't hold them back, but he doesn't advance them forward significantly either. When you start giving a quarterback like Dak this kind of money, you're going to lose all that other talent around you. The only guys that can command this kind of money are Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, those kinds of guys.
Josh Allen?
Probably. Josh Allen's right on that cusp. If he were to get that money, I still think the Bills could win because if you put the game on his shoulders, he can win. There's just something missing, similar to like Aaron Rodgers. There's just something missing with Josh Allen. But yes, I do think that Josh Allen is probably worth the money.
All righty, well, let's do this. Let's go to Micah Parsons. He was on the Stephen A. Smith show the other day, and Micah Parsons wanted to defend Dak Prescott, who's an NFC quarterback, against AFC quarterbacks. Listen up. This is Micah Parsons.
Besides Patrick Mahomes, what other quarterback in the AFC has accomplished anything to get more credit than Dak?
Joe Burrow, Josh Allen.
Did he finish?
No, but they got further.
It doesn't matter how far you get. If you go home and you're not entering the ring, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If we get sent home, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
That's no different.
It doesn't matter.
Getting bounced in a wild card game?
It's no difference.
Come on, man. That's ridiculous.
If you're not the Super Bowl champion, it doesn't matter. You haven't accomplished anything. When you go to the Hall of Fame or you do anything, does it say, made an NFC Championship final?
No.
It gives you a Pro Bowl, an All-Pro, and Super Bowl. Those are the only three things that they consider. They don't say, oh, you made it to the NFC Championship, you deserve this. If you do not win the big one, it does not matter.
So then, you know how I would have followed up with Micah Parsons? Then are you deserving of a big lucrative contract? Are you considered, what have you accomplished then? Because Micah Parsons just said, if you don't win a Super Bowl, it doesn't matter. But then he also just said, the quarterbacks in the AFC outside of Mahomes, how are they more accomplished than Dak Prescott? Well, just for starters. And I'm just saying guys that are more accomplished, whether that's to a little degree or a big degree, that's a different conversation. But it was more accomplished. Well, Lamar Jackson has struggled in the postseason just like Dak Prescott. Last time I checked, though, Lamar Jackson has 2 MVPs. Dak Prescott has none. Lamar Jackson's more accomplished than Dak Prescott. Joe Burrow, he has made it at least to a Super Bowl. Dak Prescott hasn't even made it to an NFC Championship game. Joe Burrow's more accomplished than Dak Prescott, and Joe Burrow's only been in the league for, 4 years, and he's been injured for 2 of them. Then we go to Josh Allen. Josh Allen has played well in the playoffs. His teams have not won enough games, but at least Josh Allen has made it to an AFC title game. Dak Prescott has not made it to a conference championship game. So just those 3 quarterbacks, and I know Rodgers is known for an NFC quarterback and he just got hurt, but Aaron Rodgers has won a Super Bowl. He's now an AFC quarterback. Dak Prescott can only dream about getting to a Super Bowl. So there are a lot more accomplished quarterbacks in the AFC than Dak Prescott. Now, you may not view those accomplishments as just getting to a Super Bowl or getting to an AFC championship game or winning 2 MVPs as significant, but it's still more than what Dak Prescott has been able to do. And I will go as far as to say this. Entering the 2024 season, there are 10 quarterbacks that I would rather have over Dak Prescott. Just 10 for starters. And I don't think Dak Prescott, in my opinion, entering the 2024 season is a top 10 quarterback even after just having a really good regular season. Rather have Patrick Mahomes than Dak. Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, C.J. Stroud, he was magnificent. Aaron Rodgers, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, Matthew Stafford, who is a Super Bowl champion, and then even Brock Purdy. That's just for starters. Those 10 quarterbacks I would rather have over Dak Prescott entering this season. And Dak Prescott, according to Jordan Schultz, is going to potentially command a contract of $60 million a year. You get your money when you can. I will never fault someone for signing a contract if someone's willing to pay you, but there has to be some middle ground here for good quarterbacks like Dak Prescott to not get great quarterback money and to reset the entire market. And I get it. Some of those quarterbacks that I just mentioned are just good quarterbacks, and they got paid great money. But this is just at a level now where even when the salary cap keeps on rising and rising and rising, eventually we can't keep on giving out $60 million a year contracts to guys that probably shouldn't get it. Because as Samter said, and I'll say it again, if the Cowboys couldn't get the job done this year, then when Dak gets more and more money, how are they going to put out a better product on the field, and how are they going to put out a better team? The answer is they won't, and the farthest Dak will ever go is just getting to an NFC title game. And I don't even know if he'll be able to do that in Dallas. The Cowboys will never, under Dak Prescott, be in a Super Bowl, let alone win a Super Bowl. What would your reaction be if Dak Prescott got a $60 million a year contract? 855-212-4CBS, 42-27. It is the show on CBS Sports Radio. We'll take a break. When we come on back in 5 minutes, are the Atlanta Falcons just a quarterback away?
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air across the nation on CBS Sports Radio. Here's Zach Gelb.
It is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Coming up later, we'll play you some sound of J.J. Redick criticizing Doc Rivers, which is very interesting to me because Doc Rivers used to coach J.J. Redick, and now J.J. Redick just replaced Doc Rivers on the broadcast team because Doc Rivers elected to go back to coaching the Bucs, and he's not doing a good job. And this has now led to a beef between J.J. Redick and Pat Beverly. So get your popcorn ready. Some fun stuff here. We'll delve into that later on in the show. But first, let's play a little Terry Fontenot, the GM of the Atlanta Falcons. He was on the NFL Report with Steve Weish. And this is what Terry Fontenot had to say about finding a quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, we won't close any doors, Steve. You're right. That's a top priority for us this offseason. We have a lot of really smart people in the building. We're going to spend a lot of time together, make sure we attack that the right way. We're not going to close any doors, be it trades, free agency, the draft. We'll make sure we keep an open mind there, and we're going to attack it and make sure we get it right.
So we know that the Falcons are going to be bringing in a new quarterback. Taylor Heineke, as much as I love his nickname, he is not the guy. Desmond Ridder was put in a bad situation this past year where all he needed to be was a game manager. And Arthur Smith, who's now the offensive coordinator of the Steelers, but was his head coach this past year, he tried to make him something more than a game manager, and they went away from their bread and butter, which should have just been Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier really getting most of the reps this year and getting the football in their hands more times than Desmond Ridder actually throwing it to other players. So now you need a quarterback because you look inside the NFC South, there's no team right now inside the NFC South that should scare you. The Panthers don't have their damn act together. The Saints, they're a solid team, but no one believes in Derek Carr. And the Saints, when they were supposed to be the team this year in the NFC South, they couldn't even win their division. And then you have Tampa Bay, who it's expected that Mike Evans is going to hit free agency. It looks like Antoine Winfield Jr. is going to get franchise tag, and I would think Baker Mayfield is going to be back. And Baker Mayfield had a good season this past year under Dave Canales, but now Dave Canales is the head coach of the Carolina Panthers. So I look at the Falcons as a team with an opportunity this year. And I thought they had an opportunity last year to win the NFC South. And I talked to Arthur Blank in person on Radio Row, and then I also talked to him off the air in person on Radio Row. Let's play the on-air part of it, though. This was from February 9th when Arthur Blank joined us in Las Vegas. And I asked him, what is the ideal way this offseason? Is it to get a veteran or is it to draft a quarterback? Here is the owner of the Atlanta Falcons.
The last great quarterback we had was Matt Ryan. I mean, that's really what you wanted. That's really the kind of franchise transitions you want to see. It's not easy to do. Obviously done in Green Bay. They drafted Jordan Love early, kept him on the bench for a while, played behind Aaron. Aaron moved on. Jordan stepped up this year, played at a high level. So you're looking for a long-term solution. Yeah. Sometimes in a long-term solution, you have to have an interim solution too. So you got to do sometimes a mixture of both. But ideally, long-term, you're looking for that franchise quarterback.
So the Falcons are picking 8th in the draft this upcoming year. You could get a quarterback at 8. But if you stay at 8, in all likelihood, Caleb Williams is going to be off the board. Drake May is going to be off the board. And then also Jaden Daniels is going to be off the board. Now, we've seen teams move up in the draft from further back than 8 and propel themselves into the top 5, into the top 3. We've seen that happen before. But it takes 2 to tango. I don't think the Bears are trading their pick. I don't think Washington is trading their pick. And I would lean more on the side that the Patriots won't trade their pick. But out of the 3, if there is someone that is the most likely out of the top 3 to trade the pick, I would say it's the Patriots sitting him at number 3. So let's say you can't get into the top 3. Who's the quarterback that you're potentially picking at 8? I would not use the 8th overall pick on Michael Penix Jr. I would not use the 8th overall pick on J.J. McCarthy. And I would not use the 8th overall pick on Bo Nix. And those are probably, and I don't even know if, I think Penix has a chance to be a first rounder. I think McCarthy, he shouldn't be a first rounder, but I think he has a chance. I would not say Bo Nix should be a first rounder. Spencer Rattler could also be a name thrown out there. There's no way he'll be a first rounder. So in all likelihood, what I'm getting at here, I do think it's unlikely that the Atlanta Falcons this offseason find their quarterback of the future, even with what Arthur Blank just said about how you have a vet and then you draft a youngster, and that's the ideal way, like what Kansas City has done, what Green Bay has done. I don't think that's likely where they're positioned this year in the draft. So let's say you can't draft a quarterback, or it doesn't behoove you to draft a quarterback. Then you have to go via trade or via free agency. And there are 3 names right now that I think could be in play for the Atlanta Falcons. I think the most underwhelming name out of the 3, I'll give you first, it's Russell Wilson. Because I don't believe anyone actually believes Sean Payton last week when he's like, oh, Russ wants to come back. You know, we still have a door open and a window open for him to return. You don't like Russell Wilson. His contract, he's overpaid. He declined quickly. He could still be serviceable, but he's not a great quarterback anymore. I don't think Falcons fans, even though Russ could be a game manager in Atlanta and be used the way that Desmond Ridder should have been used this past year and would have been an upgrade, I don't think Falcons fans are jumping up and down like a fat kid in a candy store. I really do believe for the Falcons, it comes down to 2 names. And I believe the conversation on what they should do is fascinating. Because when I talked to Arthur Blank off the air, Arthur Blank made it clear to me, and I agree with him, I think they have a team that's a quarterback away. I think they have a really good roster. Now, you could ask me, Zach, a quarterback away from doing what? A quarterback away from being a division champion and potentially winning a playoff game. Like, that's what I think the Atlanta Falcons could do this upcoming season if, and it's a big if, they just get some positive, productive play out of the quarterback position. And the conversation this offseason, when it shouldn't be Russell Wilson, and it shouldn't be drafting a quarterback because I just don't think they're going to be able to get one of the quote-unquote big 3, is going to be between Kirk Cousins and Justin Fields. And the reason why I think this conversation is fascinating is because Kirk Cousins would be on a short-term deal contract, probably like a 3-year contract, and you're going to have to, in all likelihood, guarantee all the money. But Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback, not a great quarterback, and he could win a division, and he could win a playoff game. Like, the Falcons get Kirk Cousins, they will have, in a huge way, dramatic, and I know the bar was so low, but dramatically improve their quarterback position from a year ago. And Kirk Cousins is more than just a game manager, and all you need is a game manager. The other name is Justin Fields. And for Justin Fields, it's one of those situations where it's based off potential. Like a few years ago, people thought the Falcons should have drafted Justin Fields. Instead, I believe they ended up taking Kyle Pitts. I want to say that was the same draft. And Kyle Pitts, I don't think has been utilized the right way. And he's been underwhelming so far as an NFL player. And I think most of it is because they just haven't used him the correct way. But if you go get Justin Fields for, let's say, a 2nd-round pick, you got to make sure he hits. I think the safer play is Kirk Cousins. The longer-term play could be Justin Fields. But what happens, even though we all just assume that the shortcomings in Chicago for Justin Fields was more the Bears' fault than Justin Fields' fault, what happens if he never turns that around when in a better environment with the Atlanta Falcons? So I could see why there would be an appeal and a higher intrigue probably from fans to go with Justin Fields for a 2nd-round pick because you think he may be able to be the guy long-term. But I think when you have a new coaching staff in Raheem Morris, you have a new offensive coordinator in Zach Robinson, and you have a team that is ready to win now in some capacity. And I understand that's not winning a Super Bowl, but that is winning a division and maybe winning a playoff game. I would say that the better play is Kirk Cousins on a fully guaranteed, in all likelihood, 3-year deal. Let me ask around the room here, though. And let me ask you this first, Samter. You are running the Atlanta Falcons. You are Terry Fontenot. Would you rather trade for Justin Fields this offseason, or would you rather give a 3-year deal to, let's say, Kirk Cousins fully guaranteed? Which one would you rather do?
I guess it depends what I have to give up for Fields. I'm not giving
Second-round pick.
If it's just a second-round pick, I would probably do that because, as you heard from Arthur Blank, what he said to us was you want to build around a franchise quarterback, right? Bringing in a vet feels like a Band-Aid. It doesn't seem like he's all that thrilled with that idea. Maybe having a vet as kind of like a bridge guy, but Kirk Cousins isn't a bridge guy. You bring in Kirk Cousins, he's your guy for 2 or 3 years. He's not a bridge guy.
Also, let's remember, Kirk Cousins is coming off an Achilles injury, too.
Right.
So even though I was on the side of Kirk Cousins, I will throw out there,
right,
even though we've seen players come back from injuries now, we don't know how mentally impacted Kirk Cousins is going to be. Physically, we know what the recovery time is, but how many times from just ACLs do we see guys come back, they're playing, but they don't look like themselves until a full year after the injury?
100%. So I wouldn't do the Kirk Cousins thing. It doesn't seem like that's the route they want to go. I think it's either Fields or try to move up and get one of those top guys.
Okay. Stu, what would you be doing?
I would actually go to Cousins route. As much as I like Fields and the potential that he brings, there's still so many question marks with him. And I know there are question marks with Cousins, too, especially with the health and getting up there in age. Though. It's a safer bet with some players that they're kind of built to kind of win now. Like, they have some talent around the quarterback position. So I think going with a guy who is the more sure bet right now is what I would do.
And I said this to Bijan Robinson right to his face on Radio Row. It made no sense why they would limit his usage this year because all we're told about the running back position is the shelf life is so slim and so short. And why would you then limit his usage in year one where who even knows if he's going to get a second contract from the Atlanta Falcons? And when your team is based really first and foremost through the run with guys like Robinson and Algier, and you have a very good wide receiver in Drake London, and you had a defense, I know they have a new defensive coordinator now, but Ryan Nielsen did a sensational job improving that team last year, and you have a very good young up-and-coming secondary. It seems like they wasted a year of Bijan Robinson. And I just can't afford to waste another year where, yeah, sure, the offense may be more explosive with the speed of Justin Fields as well. But what happens if Fields gets to Atlanta and he's kind of similar to the player that he was in Chicago? Then all the takes start turning from, oh, the Bears ruined him, to no, it was actually more Justin Fields than Chicago. That's why I just think Kirk Cousins, for what I'm asking out of the Falcons for the next 2 to 3 years, is the right move. And also to what Arthur Blank said, you bring in a guy like Kirk Cousins, you could pass on drafting a quarterback this year in the first round, and maybe you could go move up, and it's going to be tougher because in theory you'd be better, but we've seen it happen before with teams like the Bills who got Josh Allen and teams like the Chiefs who got Patrick Mahomes. Then you wait another year or two to go move up to go get that quarterback, and you still have the insurance of having Kirk Cousins to buy you that time because at least you know you're getting a good quality quarterback in Kirk Cousins. All righty, Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio. We will take a time out. When we come on back, we'll update you some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. That is the news brief, but update time first. Here he is, the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flag.
And it's sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Looking for a career path with...
Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Now back to the Zach Gelb Show.
The Defensive Player of the Week is the Navy Federal Credit Union, who proudly serves our armed forces, DoD veterans, and their families. Their members are the mission. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. This week's player is Red Wings goalie James Reimer in Detroit's 5-0 win over the Flames on Saturday. Reimer saved all 38 shots that came his way, earning first-star honors. Detroit currently holds the second wildcard spot in the Eastern Conference playoffs with 64 points. You do have a good game tonight in hockey at Madison Square Garden between the New York Rangers and Pete DeBoer's Dallas Stars as well. So how about that? We got some pucks, baby. Stu's a pucks guy. I'm a pucks guy. Pucks, 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 and more pucks for all, right, Santer? We're going to be talking a lot of hockey here on CBS Sports Radio. You down?
I was going to say something like that involves puck. Yeah, there you go. Something like that. But I figured it would be inappropriate.
Yeah, it probably would have. But if you think something's inappropriate, then usually if you leave it up to me in a 50-50 scenario, I'll end up saying the inappropriate.
Yeah, I have a very, very low bar.
Yeah, that is true. Anyway, let's update you some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. We go to a news brief.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
So we got a guy in J.J. Redick who used to play for Doc Rivers on ESPN crushing Doc Rivers. Let me just set this up. So Doc Rivers was once a coach for J.J. Redick. As you all know, Doc Rivers was promoted he got fired, and then he got hired by ESPN, and he was the #1 color analyst, and he was going to be on the A team in the NBA Finals, along with Doris Burke and Mike Breen, because for some reason they thought they had to get Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy fired at ESPN. But nonetheless, the Bucks, after record-wise having a good team, fired Adrian Griffin, and then they hired Doc Rivers. So slides up J.J. Redick from the 2 team to the 1 team to replace Doc Rivers. And he was on First Take earlier this morning, if you're still following all this. And he was slamming his old coach and the guy whose job he took when Doc went back to the NBA in not taking any ownership for his struggles with the Bucks and always making excuses. Listen up.
I've seen the trend for years.
What's the trend?
The trend is always making excuses. Doc, we get it. Taking over a team in the middle of the season is hard. It's hard. We get it. Just like getting traded in the middle of the season is hard for a player. We get it. But it's always an excuse. It's always throwing your team under the bus. They lose to Memphis. Oh, it's his players. Memphis was playing G League guys and two-way guys. Then you look at his quotes over the weekend. Now he wants to take credit for the James Harden trade to the Clippers working out. He wants credit for that. There's never accountability with that guy.
So I appreciate a good rant, but I'm just going to be fully transparent here. I do not like J.J. Redick as a broadcaster. He always just sounds so angry. Like, if I was his agent or if I was a broadcasting coach to J.J. Redick, like, you could smile here and there. It won't kill anybody. And quite frankly, I know our boss, for however longer that is, Spike Eskin, before he goes down the turnpike to host Afternoon Drive in Philadelphia, I told Spike this. I'm not going to look forward to big playoff games when J.J. Redick is on the call because for whatever the reason is, J.J. Redick as a broadcaster just annoys me. And I wish he would just smile here or there. And this is coming from someone that loves to rant and rave and scream and go crazy on the radio. But I never hear, it feels like J.J. Redick, whenever he's talking about something, it's always angry. There's never any laughs or having any fun. But the one thing I will counter to J.J. Redick, who I will say it's a good rant, and there is a lack of accountability with Doc Rivers, and he makes a lot of excuses. Do you have that same energy for the players that have failed as well? Because James Harden made a lot of excuses and took no accountability. Paul George, when it didn't work out in L.A. with Doc Rivers, he threw Doc right underneath the bus, and he took no accountability and made a lot of excuses. So is that just an anti-Doc thing? Is that just an anti-coach thing? Or is it you're just going to use someone to kind of detract from the players in the past that have taken no accountability and ownership? Now, Pat Beverly, let me just make sure that this is actually Pat. It is. He tweeted to J.J. Redick, this man, Doc, actually saved your career, started you when no one else wanted to, and you retire, go on TV and say that, J.J. Redick? Oh, get your popcorn ready, as T.O. would say. J.J. Redick responds back with, Pat, my guy. Whenever you start something off with my guy or bro or buddy, it's about to really turn up the heat in this you-know-what. Pat, my guy, I had a 4-year offer with a player option for the same money to be a starter for a different team. FOH saved my career. All righty. Good job, guys. I like that. That's a good little social media spat. That's a good beef. You have JJ going after Doc. Then you have Pat defending Doc going after JJ. This is pretty good. I like this. Let's continue it. But JJ, just working a smile here or there. I just need a smile here or there because it always seems like you're so angry yelling about things. Here is Antonio Pierce on the rush with Max Crosby. This is Antonio Pierce, the new Raiders coach, on the Mahomes rules.
You got the Jordan rules, and I'm calling now from now on, as long as I'm here, the Patrick Mahomes rules. So you remember when Jordan was going through it with the Pistons, all those guys in the 80s before he came, Michael Jordan and Air Jordan, the Pistons used to whoop his anytime he came to the home, elbows, filling them, love taps. We touched them. We're in the head, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. I'm touching you. So I showed those guys Jordan getting his whooped.
Greg Williams is on line one with Bounty Gate. Greg, how are you? I actually don't have a problem with that. I think the way that this is being talked about is a lot worse than that actually sounded. I purposely avoided listening to that audio, and I was just reading the reaction to it. People are making this out as this is Bounty Gate 2.0. He's basically saying we're going to play physical football and we're going to go after Patrick Mahomes. Does anyone have, Stu, you hear that? I know you're a Raiders fan, so you're biased, but is there any problem?
Not at all. Love it.
Samter?
I don't. At first, I heard the Bounty Gate thing too. I don't think it's Bounty Gate level.
Well, let me be clear, just real quickly.
Yes.
I didn't hear Bounty Gate.
Right.
But people are making this out as if he basically said, we're going to intentionally injure and harm Patrick Mahomes.
So I'm not getting that specifically, but what I am getting is we're going to be physical with the quarterback of the Chiefs, a multiple MVP, a 3-time Super Bowl champion.
Yeah.
Here's what you're asking for. Late hit penalties, roughing the passer penalties, and a bunch of nonsense penalties that are going to hurt your team on third down and long and all these other things. It's great to be physical. It's great to be tough. It's great to be hardcore, but you just can't do that to the quarterback in today's NFL. Whether it's Bounty Gate level or not, if you're saying I want to get physical with the quarterback, especially Patrick Mahomes, you're going to get penalties and you're going to screw your team over and your team is going to lose because of it.
But here's the thing.
That's where the issue I have is.
But here's the thing. I know they beat the Chiefs at the end of the season, but 9 times out of 10, whatever anyone is doing right now with Patrick Mahomes, even when they were vulnerable the last 2 years, hasn't been good enough. So if you have to try this approach and you have to be physical in football, I'm okay if that means you get a few penalties here or there. They just better not come on 3rd down when you're trying to get off the field, because then that is a different conversation. Let's go to Ocho Cinco, I think is now going back to being called Chad Johnson. He's hearing a little bit about Russell Wilson going to the Steelers. A little birdie told this, cheap. Nightcap with Shannon Sharp.
We got to work on the Steelers now. If a little birdie told me, a little birdie told me, and I said this many shows ago, if Russell Wilson coming on over there to the Steelers.
I think right now I saw on DraftKings the betting favorite is Justin Fields to end up in Pittsburgh.
No, he's going to Atlanta. I thought he would be Michael Vick 2.0. I thought he would be Michael Vick 2.0 in Atlanta. On that turf? Indoors? Yeah. Oh, that's fast now.
So I know people use the word script as like kind of a joke now with the NFL, who has the script and all that. But can I take that Chad Johnson is just hearing something as it being actually serious? Like, that to me is not a report. That is like, who knows who told him that information? Now, I don't think it's impossible for Russell Wilson to land with the Steelers, but I can't sit here and say that it's definitely going to happen. And you look around right now, Justin Fields, to Ocho Cinco's point, I would not object to him landing in Atlanta. I think Kirk Cousins is the better decision, but what happens if Kirk stays in Minnesota? So then it's like, who do the Steelers go out and get? But in that same breath, we just had the Jerry Dulac report come out the other day where he said the Steelers aren't expected to pursue a quarterback that intends to start this year. So that would eliminate Russell Wilson as well. This is the best way of saying it. No one has a damn clue who's going to be quarterback of the Steelers this year. You just don't. But I appreciate the conversation and the entertainment that Chad Johnson did bring. Let's go to Jimmy Johnson. He was on the Joe Rose Show on 560 WQAM, and Jimmy Johnson says Bill Belichick doesn't need GM power.
Bill is upfront about it. He said, hey, I don't need to be in charge of everything. It's just that's what happened up in New England. It kind of fell into that deal, and it's not necessarily that he pushed for it. It's just that that's what happened because he was there for so long. But he's more than willing to give up some of the personnel decisions to the general manager and the personnel people.
Which is fine, but also Bill has to work together with that person. And clearly, Bill didn't think, or people in the Falcons organization didn't think, that Bill could have worked with Rich McKay or Terry Fontenot. And that's why I believe we went from the point where Arthur Blank wanted Bill Belichick and then ended up passing on Bill Belichick. Because people don't genuinely believe that Bill's going to play nice with people in the building within a year. A lot of those guys would have been fired. And finally, let's listen up to Anthony Rendon. This was a bizarre exchange when he was asked is baseball his top priority right now.
Is it still a top priority for you?
That's never been a top priority for me. This is a job. So I do this to make a living. My faith, my family come first before this job. So if those things come before it, I'm leaving.
Is it a priority?
Oh, it's a priority for sure. This is my job. I'm here. All right.
Do you want to be here?
I don't want to talk to you guys at 7 in the morning or whatever time it is. So.
Do you want to like be here playing baseball?
I have answered your question. So why do you keep picking at it?
Oh, yeah, you technically answered it.
Thank you.
So I actually don't think that's as bad as what people are saying. Now, it's a bad person from it to be coming from because of him being a failure with the Angels and him not living up to that contract or even coming close to living up to that contract. It is a bad look, don't get me wrong. But if anybody else came out and said, yeah, my top priority is pretty much my family and my religion, and then it's my job, I think we would be fine with that. But it just doesn't sound right. And you got to have more of an awareness that you're going to get dragged for this when you're Anthony Rendon, who won a World Series and was a great story with the Nationals. But ever since going to the Angels, he has just faded off. And I know he's had some injuries, but it seems like, right, you're kind of mailing it in. No, you're getting this money either way. So I understand the outrage to it, but the audio wasn't as bad as the way that I saw the reaction was in the last 24 hours.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
is nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
It's a dreaded, and I mean a dreadful Tuesday. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Imagine if that's the first moment you're tuning into the show today. You're like, man, what happened to Gelb last night? Why is he in such a miserable mood today? I'm actually not in a miserable mood today. But there's sometimes topics you have to talk about that I find are miserable topics because I don't like the outcome of them. And this is one of them. So we already knew, and I've already waved the white flag, where the college football playoff is going to 12 teams. So that was kind of out of sight, out of mind. But they had to make a revision to it, and that revision was finalized today, and it was announced today, because basically the Pac-12 has gone away with only 2 schools remaining. And under the old, new 12-game format, if that makes sense, it was going to be 6 conference champions guaranteed a spot in the college football playoff, and then 6 wild card to get you to 12. Because it would have been the 5 Power 5 conference champions, and it then would have been the 1 group of 5 conference champion, whoever the highest rated. Then you would have 6 wild card teams, however you want to call it, 6 other bids to make the 12-team college football playoff. But with the Pac-12 basically dissolving, you are now going to have the change go from 6 conference champions to 5 conference champions. And the first 4 out of those 5 that are the highest rated will get buys. And then everyone else will play in that first round from 5 to 12. So I'm just going to do something here quickly. And we'll further delve into why this is the wrong decision. And what I'm about to say, Samter even said it to me in the newsroom, but you can't do this because these aren't what the rules were intended for. But I'm even scaling this to even help the people that want to see a 12-team playoff happen. So let's just use the rules that are going to be implemented next year for the field that we saw this past year. And when I say that, I'm fully cognizant that that opens up the door for the Pac-12 to get into the playoffs, even though there won't be a Pac-12 next year. But let's just say we take the guidelines that have been issued today for the 5 conference champions getting in, and then it's going to be the 7 other spots that are up for grabs. I will even play into this game. So your buys would have been for the college football playoff, if they use the rules that they'll implement this year for last year, Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Alabama. Those would have been the 4 teams that got into the college football playoff, and those are the 4 teams under 12 that would have got a bye. Then Florida State wouldn't have been squeezed out because they won the ACC. So for these first-round matchups, 5 through 12, all of these will be on the home stadium campuses. So Florida State would be hosting Oklahoma. Like, good that Florida State got in. Good that they would have had a playoff berth. I didn't need to see any more of Oklahoma. Then you would have Georgia going up against Ole Miss. That would have been your 6-11 matchup. Fireworks. That's an awesome matchup. That's a matchup that I would love to see. Your 7-10 matchup would have been Penn State visiting Ohio State. Already saw it earlier in the season. That was a painful, and I mean a painful, offensive game. That game was actually offensive to offensive football. And then finally, you'd have an 8-9 game between Missouri and Oregon. You know, Missouri had a fine season. Oregon, they couldn't beat Washington twice. I don't need to see any more of Oregon. And I love Dan Lanning and the Ducks. So out of those 4 matchups, when I am even scaling it, using the rules that will be implemented next year that are now even outdated but make the matchups even stronger, you are looking at a first round where I only want to see 1 out of 4 matchups. That's it. So whether you agree or disagree with me, that's fine. That's irrelevant. I understand they're going to 12. There is nothing that I could say that is going to change what they are doing. But going to 12 is an egregious, greedy mistake. And it ruins the best regular season in sports, and that's the college football regular season. It is terrible that they're going to 12. Because guess what happens? Soon 12 will turn into 14, 16, 18, 20, and the regular season will be watered down, and you could lose 3-4 games a year, and it won't mean anything. Like Penn State this past year, they basically had 2 games on their schedule. They needed to just win one of Michigan or Ohio State for it to be a successful season. They couldn't do it either time. They couldn't even, the bar was just one win, and they couldn't do that. And that was even getting the help of having Jim Harbaugh suspended like the night before the game. And Jerome Moore went into Happy Valley, and he cried after the game. And it wasn't because he was upset. They were tears of joy. And Michigan said to Penn State, we don't need to throw the ball in the second half. We'll just run. But this is what happens when you go to a ludicrous number of 12. You give a team that doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs an opportunity to be in the postseason. And that's my problem. Because the starting point of expansion, right, was going from 2 to 4. I was fine with seeing 4 teams in the college football playoff. And for a while, I was even of the line of thinking that you needed to expand. But the farthest I would go on expansion was to 8 teams. And I've given this format like 9,000 times here on CBS Sports Radio. Before we knew the Pac-12 would go away, it was the 5 Power 5 conference champs, the best Group of 5 the best Group of 5 conference champ, and then it was 2 wildcard spots. That was a good formula for 8. But with the Pac-12 going away, I think 6 is the best number. Where the 4 Power 4, I guess, or the Core 4, what are we calling them now? Conference champs get in. They're guaranteed a spot. And then you just have 2 wildcard spots. And this year, guess who would have got in? Florida State and Georgia. And I could have seen more of Georgia, and I could have seen more Florida State. If you still want to give me 8, I'm okay with that. But going to 12 is just absolutely ridiculous. It's stupid. And it's a drastic jump where it's only going to continue to grow bigger and bigger and bigger. The regular season in college football is awesome. I love it. Once again, 6 or 8 I could live with in terms of a playoff. But 12 is just too many. And even when I make the argument to try to enhance the 12-team playoff by using the rules for next year, for this past year, which factors in another Power 5 conference, and there's not going to be 5 Power 5 conferences next year, the first round is still extremely underwhelming. So today, when that email came across my desk from the College Football Playoff Committee, under the 12-team playoff format that begins this fall, the 4 highest-ranked conference champions will be seeded 1 through 4, and each will receive a first-round bye, while teams seeded 5 through 12 will play each other in the first round on the home field of the higher-ranked team. The team ranked 5 will host 12, 6 will meet Team 11, 7 will play Team 10, and 8 will meet 9. The quarterfinals and semifinals will be played in the New Year's 6 bowl games. The national championship game will be continue on a neutral site, and no conference will qualify automatically, and there will be no limit to the number of participants from that conference or from a conference. I just wanted to delete this email. Now, I couldn't delete the email because I needed it for the show, but once the show ends, I will delete this email. It just drives me bonkers. And also for Notre Dame fans, maybe this is more of a reason to join a conference. Now, you could also argue it the other way. Hey, Notre Dame only has 2 losses a year. Even if they don't join a conference full-time, which I don't think they will for the foreseeable future, you're in all likelihood probably going to get into a 12-team format because of your brand, but you don't have an automatic way in without being a conference champion because the automatic spots, 5 of them reserved for the highest-ranked conference champion. So the big change today, if you want to say that, it's just logic. If you're already going to 12 and that's already sealed, signed, and delivered, you reduce the automatic bids from 6 to 5 with the conference champs because one of the Power 5 just went away in the Pac-12, and now it's the Core 4, and there will be 1 spot for the Group of 5, which whoever is the highest Group of 5 conference champion. Now, Samter, I know that you are a big proponent of college football playoff expansion. You're a big proponent of going to 12. Let me just reiterate. I could understand expansion. Up until this year, there was never a need for expansion where you felt like someone actually got screwed. You want to tell me 6 teams? Okay, I'll pat you on the back. You want to tell me 8 teams? Okay. You know, I could sit there and I could dabble with 8. But anything north of 8, I think, is going to ruin the regular season of college football. And there is nothing more that I enjoy in my sports fandom than on Saturday being able to crack open a brew, place my wager, and also watch the game of college football. I love that on Saturday. And a big reason why I love it is because every game feels like it matters. And you maybe only get one mulligan. Whereas there's so many times, like the NBA regular season doesn't matter. I love hockey, but the regular season, just get in. It doesn't matter. Major League Baseball, it's tough to watch 162 games. But in college football, the regular season matters. And it's so fun and it's so different. And I think going to 12 is just a big time mistake, even if it's all financially driven. So go ahead, Samter, have at it.
I mean, there's so many things I could say that would just, I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs just won the Super Bowl. They were the 3rd seed in the AFC. They had the 6th best record in the NFL. They would not get into the playoff in your system of 4 teams. It's ridiculous.
No, you cannot do this sport to sport because those are the rules for the NFL.
Right. So
the NFL, hold on. The NFL, when they were at 6 and then they went to 7, Kansas City still would have got in. I'm okay with what the NFL does. I don't think they needed to go to that 7th spot. They should have just kept it at 6. But that has nothing to do with the college football playoff.
So does the NFL regular season not matter?
The NFL regular season matters.
Okay, so 7 teams out of 16 in each conference get in.
But you can't do it that way.
Why not?
It's 7 in one conference.
Yeah.
They're
so
not
14
separating
out
them
of 32
conference to
teams.
conference here. This is everyone.
Right. So 14 out of 32 teams. That's 44% of the NFL gets into the playoffs. Is the regular season diminished? Does the regular season not matter?
Well, hold on. Kansas City this year? Did it really matter for them?
I mean, this is my point. The playoffs, at the end of the
totally
day, the
different.
Kansas City Chiefs, they were 11-6. Maybe the regular season's a little bit diminished in the sense that now that they have a chance in the playoffs.
Let me ask you this.
But the regular season still matters.
Out of these 12 teams, how many of these teams, and let's keep it college to college, let's not go college to pro. How many of these 12 teams do you actually think would have a chance to win the national championship? A chance. Out of these 12 teams. Go ahead. Like, I'll even go on the scaled format. Michigan, Washington, Texas, Alabama, Florida State, Oklahoma, Georgia, Ole Miss, Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon, and Missouri. How many of those teams do you think you could legitimately say that they could have won the national title this past year?
8 or 9.
I don't see how you get to that number. I'll give you.
So
hold on.
Okay.
I'll give you 5. I think there's only 5 that you can make the argument for. Michigan, Washington, Texas, Alabama, and Georgia. That's it. And don't you dare tell me Ohio State, who I told you for 8 weeks should never been number 1. They were the most overrated team in the country, and they weren't winning jack with Kyle McCord as their quarterback.
Their only loss was at Michigan in a 1-score game where they had the ball with a chance to tie or win the game at the end. Michigan was the best team in the country who won the national championship.
Who choked the game?
What?
Who choked that game?
It doesn't. Well,
it does matter.
Yes, that's one game. My point is Ohio State on a neutral field could have beaten Michigan if they had a better game. Ohio State was possession a few. Dude, they were one possession a few yards away from tying or winning that game.
Okay.
They had one loss on the season. To tell me that they had no chance of beating a team like Texas or even beating a team like Michigan is wrong because they almost beat Michigan in Michigan.
You got to move back for the microphone a little bit because I think you're making love with the microphone. How much you're yelling into the microphone, like my ears just like popped in 9,000 different directions. I'll tell you what Ohio State was this year. Ohio State was a good team. They were nowhere close to being a great team. Ohio State was the Rams up against the Patriots in Super Bowl 53, where for most of the game,
Rams were in the Super Bowl.
Hold on, where most of the game it was a one-possession game, but you knew the Rams were never winning the game. Come on, Ohio State was never going to win a national championship this year. And all they had to do was beat Michigan, and they would have been in the 4. And Michigan played a C game. They didn't even play their best brand, and they still beat Ohio State.
Play it on the field. Don't play it in your mind. Don't play it in the stat sheet. Play it on the field. So my point is, in Michigan, they lost by one possession with a chance to tie or win the game at the end. So they were close enough to at least be part of the conversation of a team who could win a title. You're telling me that Georgia wasn't going to be able to win a title this year?
Hold on. Georgia was one of my 5 teams.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Georgia was one of my 5 teams.
So that's 6.
Before they got into the college football playoff, and Georgia.
You tell them that Florida State, even without...
Not with the third-string quarterback, no.
That defense and the run game, they're
and who
skill
picked
position players.
Florida State to win the ACC before the year started? Me. So I believed in Florida State, but as they entered the playoff, no, they would not have, especially with 12 teams.
This is why playoffs, especially a single elimination playoff, matters every game. It's the same thing that we see in college basketball, right? When a 16 seed beats a 1 seed, or a 14 seed beats a 3 seed,
and
or
guess
12
what?
beats a 5. It happens all the time.
And hold on.
Because in a single elimination tournament,
but Samter,
anything can happen.
No one watches college basketball regular season. No one does. College basketball regular season, no one talks about it until March when there's a bracket. That sport, it works because the tournament is great. It's awesome. But for football, it's a different sport. There is such a physical requirement. It's such a lethal sport as well. And now you're devaluing the regular season to put teams in there that, quite frankly, do not belong. And it takes away from all these rivalry games, too. And it gives these teams so much insurance. You're missing the point. I'm not saying don't expand. It wouldn't be my preference, but I could understand it. But to go from 4 to 12 is stupid. It is just offensive. It is stupid. And I'm telling you, next year, when we all watch a great college football regular season game and a team season should be on the line and they back their way in and then they lose in the first round, it's not going to be worth it. And are you still going to be saying this when they go from 12 to 20? Because I think I'll have a heart attack on the air if I get an announcement that they're going to go from 12 to 20. This is only the beginning. So in a small way, in an incremental way, increase it to 6 or 8. You still preserve the integrity and the greatness of the regular season instead of just going right to 12 and shooting for the stars and making college football now a mockery.
I will say I do agree that it was probably a mistake to go directly from 4 to 12. I do think they should have had a couple years of 8 and then gone to 12, but I think that 12 is the right number. Could they go to 16? Potentially, but I think 12 is the right number, and I certainly think that it was, like you said, I do agree with you that going from 4 to 12 was probably too big of a jump too quickly. You should have gone to 8 for a few years and then gone to 12.
Okay, how about 6 and then 8 and then to 12? So you just keep on kicking the can down the road. No. And you know what? A 16 playoff this year would have been awesome. It would have been great because Florida State would have got it and Georgia would have got it. And you know what? Quite frankly, I'll give you a take here. If there was a 16 playoff, I bet you the committee still would have screwed Florida State because they would have been putting in a school that didn't belong in Ohio State in the college football playoff. So maybe you're right that it should have gone to 8 because the committee still would have screwed Florida State. But either way, 6, 8, or 12, Florida State wasn't winning a college football playoff this year. But man, this first round on paper, atrocious. Atrocious. I don't need to see it. Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio. Is it a mistake for the college football playoff to go to 12 teams? 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. By the way, Stu, Samter's screaming, I'm screaming. You're usually calm. What are your thoughts on this matter?
I hate the expansion. It's going to devalue the college football regular season. And kind of like we said, I just don't think there are enough teams that can win it in the end.
I absolutely love Stu. Stu is just a wonderful, sensational human being. Also, Stu, were you a little bit concerned that, like, Samter was peeking there, right? I've never heard Samter yell that much.
He was close to the mic, and he was pretty adamant and yelling pretty loud.
All right,
I had to lower his levels a lot.
The next time I'm yelling at Zach, I'll back away from the mic a little bit. You got me excited, so I have to lean forward when I'm excited, and the mic got, whatever. I'll move the mic back next time. I apologize for my radio faux pas, but doesn't make my point any less valid.
So yesterday I asked Stu to get me a fly swatter whenever I have to deal with Samter. Maybe we do a shock collar next time. So anytime Samter gets too loud, and it's ironic coming from me, you just hear a little zzz, zzz, and then Samter knows to, lie down. Be a good dog. Be a good dog. All righty. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. All righty. I'm sorry, Samter. Coming on back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Now back to the Zach Gelb Show.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Wesley Financial. Stuck in a timeshare and want out? Contact Wesley Financial Group now and get a free timeshare exit information kit at wesleyfinancialgroup.com. All righty, we're going to do a little draft here, and we'll make 3 selections each. It is teams that did not make the playoffs last year that will make it in 2024 in the National Football League. And that's before the draft. That's before free agency. And just with what they have done so far, which for some of these teams, you could just have belief that they're getting players back, or it can be a team that maybe had someone get hurt, or a new hire that maybe changes your outlook on the team. All righty, we're going to start things off with Stu. Stu wasn't expecting that.
I
He
was
just
not.
thought
That's
I
a
was
shock.
going first.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever had the first pick in one of these drafts.
You know what, Stu? I thought you just did a sensational job in the last segment when Samter and I were just slugging at one another. I thought you provided a really good, level-headed, smart take. So I said, you know what? We'll throw Stu a biscuit today and have him go first.
Well, I appreciate that. And with the pick, I will take the Bengals. They get Joe Burrow back healthy, probably the second or third best quarterback in the league. Now, the AFC is tough, but I do think they have so much talent. If he would have stayed healthy this year, he probably would have made the playoffs with how they were playing right up until he got hurt. But, yeah, I think the Bengals are pretty much almost a guarantee to make the playoffs next year.
And by the way, the 14 playoff teams this year were the Ravens, the Bills, the Chiefs, the Texans, the Browns, the Dolphins, the Steelers, the 49ers, Cowboys, Lions, Buccaneers, Eagles, Rams, and Packers. Stu takes the Bengals. And Santer, you will go with the...
Wow, I can't believe you're letting me get the second pick. You know, you usually like to go first and not do a snake draft and go first and second and third and fourth. Interesting. All right.
There's no motive behind that. It's a snake draft. Why would I want to go third here whatsoever?
So my number 2 team, I know who you want to pick, so I'm going to let you pick the team that you want to pick. I'm going to go with the fighting Jim Harbaughs as a team
That's
that
the
are going
team I
to make the
wanted to
playoffs.
pick.
Oh, I thought there was another team in the NFC that you wanted to pick, but I'm going with the fighting Jim Harbaughs as my first pick in the first round.
Okay. My first pick, I will take, and I love the Harbaugh pick. I do. Because he's a winner. I will go with the Atlanta Falcons. You are right. I will take the Falcons. I think they're going to get Kirk Cousins or Justin Fields. They'll be a playoff team. They'll be able to win the NFC South, which is more like the NFC suck. Is that how we're going to just call it now? Because the NFC South has turned into a dreadful division. Like the NFC East, when it was bad, it was the NFC least. The AFC, when it was just the Patriots, people called it the AFC least. When you get into the South, what do you just say? NFC suck? Like, that doesn't really flow that well. I think we could do better than that. But I will take the Atlanta Falcons. I like their roster. They'll use Bijan Robinson a lot this year, and they'll probably get Kirk Cousins. Now, I could go a multitude of ways here. There's one team I'm not going to go with just because I don't know who their quarterback is going to be. So my next pick, it probably behooves me to stay in the AFC, but I'm going to go away from the NFC. It behooves me to stay in the NFC, but I'm going to go away from the NFC. I don't have a good reason to believe in this team, and I think there's a chance they get worse this offseason. But quarterback and coaching is so important. We've seen one good year of this duo and one bad year of this duo. I'm going to buy some stock that they vacillate here. Good to bad, then back to good. I will take the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Bengals to Stu, Chargers to Moist Mike. I get 2 picks. I go Falcons and Jaguars. Teams that missed the playoffs last year that will make it in 2024. Next pick.
All right, this one's pretty easy. I mean, one of the best defenses in the NFL who had no quarterback, and now they have a quarterback, is the New York Fighting Gangrene Jets.
Your football team.
My former football team.
Wait, now hold on.
Go Chiefs.
Oh, yeah, you're supposed to go here. I was thinking that Stu was going to go, but then that would really be screwing
comes
Santa.
back around. Yeah, now Stu.
Yeah, no, I'm not great with numbers.
I'm
Just,
always
being
the middle
fully
pick. I
transparent.
never get the wraparound snake. So,
Oh, you're the frosting of the Oreo. That's the best part.
Yeah.
Just hopefully if we dunk you in milk, you don't start to melt. Because then you would be a witch. And we don't want you to be a witch. We don't want you to start melting. The Jets is a good pick. The only thing with the Jets, is that offensive line going to get better? Joe Douglas has had like 1,000 years to fix the offensive line. He hasn't done it.
They have the 10th pick. There's like 6 good offensive linemen in the first round. They're going to get a tackle with the 10th pick overall. And say what you will about Rodgers and whatever, but David Bakhtiari's probably going to be a Jet.
Him.
As long as he's healthy, he'll
get on the Jimmy G diet probably.
Yeah,
right.
like,
little shoot him up with something, and then he'll look back to being
a first-round tackle and David Bakhtiari will do enough. They have Elijah Vera Tucker and they have Tippmann, who was a second-round center last year. They'll be fine on the O-line.
Just hopefully they don't draft another Mekhi Becton. That's the only thing that I'll say. Because remember, Mekhi Becton was supposed to be the stud, first-round draft pick offensive line.
His first year when he was healthy, he was a beast, and then he got hurt. And he could never get back up to it.
Now, I will give him credit. He got into good shape again. He was out of shape for a long time. All righty, Stu, you get 2 picks here. Teams that did not make the playoffs last year that will make it in 2024.
Yeah, I feel like after the Jets, it kind of falls off a bit of a cliff. So what I will do is I will actually kind of sell against the NFC South stock. Like, I think the Bucs are kind of down. Like, maybe they don't make the playoffs again like they did this year. The Falcons, I do like your pick, but in the end, maybe they don't get a quarterback. Maybe they aren't as good. So since someone has to win that division, even though I don't believe in the coach or the quarterback, I do think the Saints have a chance to make the playoffs next year. So I'll go with the Saints for my next.
Dennis Allen, your boy.
Yeah, my
your
boy.
guy.
Right. Oh, boy.
Maybe John Gruden's coaching that team like 6 or 7 weeks into the season if DA gets off to a bad start. All righty, next pick.
And for the other pick here I have, it's between the 2 NFC North teams that didn't make the playoffs, and I'm kind of torn between both. Because I don't know if the Vikings are going to have a quarterback if Cousins leaves. And the Bears are kind of a mess, but at least they might maybe have Caleb Williams. I'll go with the Bears. I think maybe we get like a Mahomes rookie year type year out of Caleb Williams, and he shocks the world and gets the Bears into the playoffs. I'll pick them.
There are 2 picks right now that I am really surprised have not been selected yet. Let's see if Samter gets one of them. Go ahead, Samter.
Well, so I have 2 teams on my board out of the NFC West that I'm looking at, and I'm trying to decide between the 2. Obviously, the Seahawks are the better team, but there's something about the Cardinals. If they get Marvin Harrison Jr., a fully healthy Kyler Murray, there's something about the Cardinals. And Jonathan Gannon feels like he has something cooking there. I'm going to go with the Cardinals over the Seahawks.
You are going the Cardinals over the Seahawks. So the Seahawks are one of the teams. The other team that I was thinking about, the Cardinals are a good one to think about because you get Kyler Murray in theory for a whole season, and you're probably getting Marvin Harrison Jr. with the 4th overall pick. The Seahawks are one of the teams that I'm thinking of, and the other team that I was thinking of, the Indianapolis Colts.
Those are the 2 teams I have left on my board.
Who, if Shane Steichen just knew how to put Jonathan Taylor on the field on their biggest play of the season, they may have already made the playoffs. And also, you get Anthony Richardson, who's looking like a stud before he did get hurt early in the season. But the one reason why I'm going to go with the Seahawks over the Colts is Mike McDonald. I don't know. Like, I think I'm not saying people are down on the hire because you're getting rid of Pete Carroll, and then, like, you may have reset the youth in that organization. You definitely did. And I think you just got a younger Pete Carroll in there. And you look at that team, you got Lockett, you got Metcalf, you got Jackson Smith and Jigba. If Kenneth Walker could stay healthy, hello. You got some young names on that defense, and I just got to be playing better. For Indy, just the quarterback is such a wild card. And also, I know the NFC West is loaded, but the AFC South has now turned into a good division. Outside of Tennessee, you got 3 good teams there in that division. The AFC is more loaded than the NFC. So I will take the Seahawks here. I feel bad about leaving the Colts out. And the Colts are my least favorite team in football, just being a Brady guy. So I think a lot of people are surprised when I say that I feel bad about the Colts.
Is it weird, as much as I love Anthony Richardson, is it weird that I think that they might actually take a step back with Richardson compared to Gardner Minshew?
No, because it's a rookie, so there's going to be natural ups and downs. Like, This is basically his rookie season.
And he got hurt, like, basically every game that he played.
Yeah, I made some early money on Anthony. The game he got hurt, I made money on him anytime touchdown. He got hurt, he scored. I think he scored 2 touchdowns in that game. And then Gardner Minshew carried the baton the rest of the way. So teams that didn't make the playoffs that will make it in 2024. Stu goes Bengals, Saints, and Bears. Santer goes Chargers, Jets, and Cardinals. I take the Falcons, Jaguars, and the Seattle Seahawks. Let me just throw 2 teams by you. Stu, how about your Raiders? What do you think they need to do this offseason to make the playoffs?
They need a quarterback and they need an experienced quarterback. So, they'd have to get like Kirk Cousins or Russ, and then, if they get one of those guys and draft a really good player, I just think it's so hard because the conference is so tough. I'd be pretty surprised, but you never know.
And let me just throw out a team. I agree the Vikings probably should have been picked, but we don't know who their quarterback's going to be. This could be a team that you'll get great odds on to make the postseason, but I'm not telling you it's going to happen. Watch the Commanders. All right, you're in the NFC East. The Giants stink. The Eagles, they have no order in that locker room right now. The Cowboys, they're about to pay their quarterback $60 million a year. I know it won't go into effect a year from now, but it seems like there's a problem, according to Micah Parsons, in that Cowboys locker room. And you have the Commanders, who are going to be getting a new quarterback. You got Terry McLaurin. That defense, we'll see if they improve. You bring in Dan Quinn. Like, would anyone be surprised if the Commanders go win 9 games this year? They go 9-8, they make the postseason? I wouldn't say I'm shocked, but let's see how the draft plays out and what they do in free agency as well. But I expect Josh Harris to be super-duper aggressive this offseason. All righty, Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio. We will take a timeout. When we come on back, Justin Fields. He unfollowed the Bears on social media. What does this mean? Woo-hoo-hoo! Coming on back. Update time first. Here's the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Well, 2 juveniles are previously charged in the Chiefs parade shooting. Now 2 adults have been charged as well. Dominic Miller and Lindell Mays were charged with second-degree murder, 2 counts of armed criminal action, and unlawful use of a weapon. Both have been hospitalized since the incident. Devin Hester is headed for Canton, and another special team standout should be there someday. The Patriots' Matthew Slater announced his retirement after 16 seasons in which he made the Pro Bowl 10 times and was part of 3 Super Bowl champions. His former coach Bill Belichick called him the best to ever play the position. The College Football Playoff Committee approved the 12-team playoff format for 24 and 25. It'll include the 5 highest-ranked conference champions and then the next 7 highest-ranked teams. With a couple of weeks left in the college basketball season, if there's a team capable of repeating as champ, it's UConn. And the Huskies trying to do it for the first time since Florida, and they're seemingly getting better and better. They've won 14 in a row, the longest conference winning streak in Big East history, and will take on Creighton tonight in Omaha. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Hey there, I'm Bart Winkler. Let's hang out weeknights here on CBS Sports Radio for my show, The Bart Winkler Show. Weeknights 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air across the nation on CBS Sports Radio. Here's Zach Gelb.
Jordan Schultz, who is the NFL insider for Bleacher Report, he has a bunch of stories out right now. One of them is that Dak Prescott could command a $60 million contract per year this offseason. Jeez Louise, that would be something. Alrighty, this may be my least favorite non-serious topic to talk about because it's just kind of stupid. And I also don't know how much time people have on their hands. The Chicago Bears have been unfollowed on social media by Justin Fields. So I have many thoughts here. One of my thoughts is, who actually takes the time to see if Justin Fields was following the Bears to begin with? And the other thing is, even if he unfollows the Bears, why do people actually care? Like, I understand that people put 2 and 2 together. Maybe the Bears have told them behind the scenes, you are not going to be the quarterback next year and we're going to trade you. But then there was also this report from Albert Breer that, and he's of SI, saying that the Bears expect to have a plan in place at the quarterback position by next week at the scouting combine in Indianapolis. So I have the reaction of who cares. And also, even if, let's say, this story's true or you weren't following the Bears to begin with, like, why would you unfollow the Bears if you're Justin Fields until this is finalized? Santa, I don't know about you, but it's kind of crazy that this is what the reporting has become. Who unfollows who on social media? And one of these aggregators, ML Football, which is a good follow, if I may say so myself, they put out the tweet, CJ Stroud isn't following the Texans. See, no one actually gives a rat's ass. It means nothing. So I thought that was a very witty tweet. But this entire who's following who on social media, I feel like I'm at the 8th grade gossip lunch table where I don't care if you're not following your team on social media, but then also if you were and then you unfollowed them, that doesn't seem right either. I roll my eyes and just think that this is really a petulant conversation.
And it's just like a petulant and just petty. Like, dude, who cares if you unfollow? I don't know. It just, why unfollow them before you get traded or moved? Because now what you're doing is you're basically making it impossible in case something were to happen for them to keep you if they decide to change their mind. Right?
Yeah.
It's like you and your girlfriend are on the verge of maybe breaking up, so you just delete all of her pictures from Facebook,
Yeah.
right? But then you guys like make up and you're good, and now she's like, well, why are there no more pictures? You can't just like add them back on. You've deleted them. So why not just wait until the breakup before you start deleting stuff rather than doing it beforehand? It makes no sense.
So this is actually a fun conversation. I'm sure we've all had girlfriends that we have broken up with. Stu, when you've had a breakup, did you delete any pictures of your ex on Instagram or any form of social media?
Like beforehand or afterwards?
After, not beforehand.
After, yes.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
not like beforehand or just to send any messages or anything like that.
Obviously, that would be very low class and stupid.
It'd be weird.
Samter, did you ever delete any pictures of your ex on social media? Just wondering. He's like, if I haven't, I'm doing so now.
No, I never really put a lot of pictures of exes onto social media. There's really only one ex who I have any pictures of on any social media, and it's only because...
The one that got away.
No,
Michael Samter's life story.
It was only because we were at this really cool event for the Yankees, and I just liked the pictures, and she just happened to be in them.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, I could just remove her from the... So the pictures are up just because, like, I really enjoyed those pictures.
Yeah.
With or without her. So I could just cut her out and just re-upload them, but that's it.
I do not post many pictures of my personal life that are non-sport related, unless if it's like a wedding or a big life occasion. There was an ex that I went on a trip to Miami with for New Year's, and that photo is still up years ago on my Instagram. I did not feel inclined to delete it. I understand, though, because here's the other thing when it comes to this conversation. I once had a college football coach who got fired that used to follow me. And when he got fired, he, I guess, didn't want to see my content because it was about his old job. So therefore, or some of my content was about at the time his old job. So therefore, he unfollowed me. And then years later, when I guess the wound was patched up, he refollowed me, which I always thought was very funny. And this person just got hired again to be a defensive coordinator. And that's all I'll say. I won't really throw that person under the bus too much. But, yeah, I always thought that behavior is just so interesting. But the girlfriend thing, I think, is a little bit more serious. And that's why I brought up the point of the college football coach that did it, is because when you break up with someone or when something ends or you leave, sometimes you just don't want to see it again. And you don't want to see it on social media or it be popping back up in your memories and things like that. But anyway, Justin Fields, he unfollows the Bears on social media. Is this the end? Is this the nail in the coffin? Does this mean that at some point from now until the draft, we're going to find out that Justin Fields is going to get traded and he will not be on the Chicago Bears next season? Samter, where you at 100% Fields won't be on the Bears next season?
Yeah, I think so now. I think by him doing this, he probably had a conversation with Kevin Warren,
who just gave him so much praise a week ago.
Matt, he probably just had a conversation.
Disingenuous
they said, listen,
praise.
We're going to go another direction at quarterback, and you're not in our future. We'll try to get you traded. And I think that's why he did what he did.
Stu, I know you always like to make an argument and try to see the good in people and try to see something when everyone else isn't seeing it. Is there any chance that Justin Fields is on the Bears next year?
Yeah, it's very small. I'd say like 2 or 3%.
I think it's 0.
I think there's maybe a chance that someone wows them with an unreal package for the number 1 pick, and then they trade it, and then they keep him, and they take a boatload of talent for him. I don't know, but it's very small. It's close to 0, but it's, yeah.
So I was on the line of thinking in the final 3 weeks of the season. I said it on the show. The Bears should keep Justin Fields, but they won't keep Justin Fields. And ever since I said that, and even though I was of the line of thinking, which I always wasn't, that the Bears should keep Justin Fields, now as we sit here a few weeks removed from the season and the season being done, even though I think they should do it, I don't think they will whatsoever. Where I think when the season ended, I was like 60%, if I was running the team, you should, 40 that you shouldn't. But now I think it's going to come down to it's 100% they're not going to keep Justin Fields, because it just comes down to kind of what Urlacher said with us. Say what you want about Urlacher, but what Urlacher said with us was spot on. Yeah, the Bears could have failed him. And I think that's safe to say he goes to another place, he gets off to a better start in his career. But after having someone in your building for 3 years and you still don't know that that's the guy and how much the salaries are for quarterbacks right now, for just good quarterbacks, forget about great quarterbacks, eventually Justin Fields is going to want a big payday. And right now I don't feel comfortable giving him that. And he's going into year 4, so you pick up the 5th-year option, and then you get the 2 years to evaluate it. But I'd rather reset where I think Justin Fields at his apex is a very good quarterback. The way that people talked about Caleb Williams for 2 years, and it doesn't always work this way, especially with how poorly we evaluate quarterbacks in the draft, people talked about Caleb Williams being a generational talent. And that wasn't just, like in the moment, this guy's the GOAT, this guy could be this. He has been talked about being a generational talent for now 2 years. Also, let me remind you, Trevor Lawrence talked about being a generational talent for 3 years. And so far, his NFL career has been up and down. So I don't think that the Bears are really deciding much at this point. I think it's all leverage play. Like you have Warren hyping him up last week. Now, they're deciding. They're just trying to increase these offers already coming in for Fields. They're just trying to increase how many offers they're going to get for Justin Fields. And yes, I think it's 100% they're taking Caleb Williams number 1 overall. And they may trade Justin Fields before the draft, or maybe they wait during the draft. But by May, I just don't see how Justin Fields is actually going to be on this team. Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio. The man that has the story that Dak Prescott could be a $60 million a year quarterback. Jordan Schultz from Bleacher Report is going to join us coming up in 5 minutes. 5 minutos right here on the Zach Gelb Show. But where else? CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. here's your host, Zach Gelb.
That's what I'm talking about. It is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. Welcome aboard on this Tuesday afternoon edition of our extravaganza. We got 60 minutes to play. You could jump on in 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. You could always hit me up on the good old cesspool of Twitter or on Instagram, where I'm always straight flexing, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. We'll be joined by an NFL insider for Bleacher Report, Jordan Schultz, coming up momentarily, as there's a lot of stories as we start to preview NFL free agency. You got the draft coming up, and just starting next week, it will be the NFL Combine, where you'll see a bunch of guys in shorts and a T-shirt be running around doing all these drills and whatever they did in their first 3 or 4 years of their college career. Sometime could be wiped away based off 140 time, or you start rumor season where teams are trying to get a prospect, so they trash a prospect anonymously to try to drive down that prospect's draft stock. If you can't tell, as much as I love football, I am not a fan of the Combine for those two things that I just mentioned, whether it's trashing players anonymously or if a guy has a great 3-year career or 4-year career, then doesn't perform well in a 40, his draft stock goes right down the tube and the gutter. But if you didn't really do much for 3-4 years, but you run one blazing fast 40 time, then all of a sudden you're going in the top 15 of the NFL draft. But Jordan Schultz is going to join us momentarily, had a story out today, and he was talking about the quarterback market. And Dak Prescott is entering the final year of his contract, and Dak Prescott has won these contract negotiations with the Dallas Cowboys, and now he's about to win in all likelihood again, because Dak Prescott is in the final year of his deal. The salary cap for him this year, the cap hit's about $60 million, so you're going to have to give him a new deal to drive that number down. And I saw today that Jordan Schultz was saying that Dak Prescott could get a new contract up to $60 million a year. Now, when you look at AAV, Burrow makes 55 right now, Herbert 52.5, Lamar 52, Jalen Hurts 51, Russell Wilson, and that extension's just kicking in 49, Kyler Murray 46.1, Deshaun Watson, he's at 46, and then here's this one. How about maybe the best bargain in the sport right now? Santer's guy, Patrick Mahomes, at $45 million a year, and then Josh Allen at $43 million a year. How about Matthew Stafford, Super Bowl champ? He's at $40 million a year. All righty, let's go out. Oh, sorry, we will not go out to the guest line right now. I thought the guys were like, he's there. Let's get ready to go. But we'll be joined in just a second by Jordan Schultz, who's a tremendous NFL insider for Bleacher Report, and he's here with us on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Jordan, I know it's been a long time coming. Appreciate the time. Thanks so much for hopping on board with us on this Tuesday afternoon.
My pleasure, Zach. Great to be here.
Yeah, thanks so much. Let me start you off with this report today. That Dak Prescott, right, your report that he could be getting a deal this offseason up to $60 million a year. How about that one? Holy smokes, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to consider with Dak. Number one, he has a lot of leverage. He can't be tagged. He has a no-trade clause. His cap number is north of $59 million next season. There's so much leverage for Dak Prescott. And then we consider the fact that they still have to pay CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons. So there's a lot of moving parts here. They couldn't wait to pay Parsons. He just became extension eligible for the first time. They also just waited last year. They pushed CD down the road. So in essence, they have 3 top-tier guys they have to pay. Maybe 2 of them get done this offseason, 1 next year. But Dak Prescott, 3 straight years of 12 wins. He was in the MVP conversation for most of the season. And in my mind, considering all the leverage he has, and when I was told going back to the owners' meetings in Dallas a couple months prior, I think he has a real chance to get close to $60 million or maybe up to 60, somewhere in between 55 and 60, and reset the market.
I will never fault a player for taking the most amount of money possible, especially when they participate in this lethal sport that we all love in football. I look at Dak. I know what you said, right? He was a top 5 in the MVP voting. He was a finalist this year. He had a good season. But I just view him as a good quarterback, not a great quarterback. But we keep on seeing good quarterbacks getting paid like they're great quarterbacks. Will this ever even out, just wondering, and will we find a middle ground? Or is this just going to be, if you're in the good conversation, you'll reset the market each and every year with the salary cap, just keep on going up and up and up?
Yeah, I think that's the key right there. As the cap continues to increase, you're going to see more quarterbacks because of the nature of the position. You're going to see that number continue to rise. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that we were talking about 30 million being a huge number. Now we're basically doubling that. And we saw last offseason, Justin Herbert resets it, Burrow. We've obviously, you mentioned Russell Wilson. There's just a litany of guys. You could say they're really good, they're great, whatever you want to call them, that are going to get huge numbers. I mean, Tua's up as well. I think Tua is going to have the opportunity to get a huge number. So when it comes down to that position and where we are at in terms of the salary cap, there's no doubt in my mind that number is going to continue going up. I mean, another guy is Jared Goff. I mean, he had a great year. They obviously were on the verge of a Super Bowl appearance. And I think he has a really good chance, Zach, in Detroit to get somewhere around 40 to 45, which would make him one of the higher paid quarterbacks in the NFL.
You brought up Tua. Do you think the Dolphins should maybe ride this out for one more season, just because for most of his NFL career, unfortunately, it's been filled with the concussions, it's been filled with the injuries, and I know he just had a good season, but still, they didn't really do much in the postseason where they lost to the Chiefs in the first round. Do you fully expect Tua's deal to get done this offseason?
I'm not sure, but I would like to see it get done, because the type of season, I know what you're saying with the concussions, and I understand it, but the season he had with Mike McDaniel was so special that it makes you believe that they have an opportunity to do something really, really impressive. Like I feel like that offense, they hung the 70 when they beat Denver, and for most of the season, that offense was really the best offense in the league. And as we saw the season progress with Tua, you always wondered, like, when's the shoe gonna fall, or when's it gonna go on the other foot, and is something gonna happen to him? And he persevered, and he showed toughness. And I know that, as you said, obviously the season did not end the way they wanted it to. They had a lot of injuries, but I saw in this year a Tua that was so much different and better. I was actually talking to his quarterback coach a while back, Nick Hicks, and he was telling me that going into this season, Tua's priority was really to strengthen his arm, and that they were able to do that through all of their preseason conditioning, and that he was consistently throwing the ball much further as well as much more accurately. And now we saw that this year, and obviously they have some terrific young weapons. I would love to see him get paid, and I think he's earned it.
Just circling back to what you were saying about Dak Prescott, and financially, right, with the cap hit for this year being almost $60 million, it probably does behoove them to get a deal done, even though I don't love giving Dak $60 million a year, potentially. Do you think there's any chance that they don't get a deal done and they just ride this out this year?
They could, but that would be a mistake to me. And also, like you said, if they pay Dak that type of money, and I know it's a huge number, but let's say they pay him 60 or near that, that gives them the opportunity to take care of other guys like a CeeDee Lamb right now as well. And so when I think about Dallas and Jerry Jones, and the fact that this is a franchise that really over the past 3 decades has been trying to find that magic again, I just don't see a scenario where they don't pay him, given the leverage. And again, I think it's really important to hit on the fact that his cap number is essentially 59.5 next year. So I believe, like you said, it would behoove them to pay him now. I don't really know what the alternative is to Dak Prescott. Obviously, you have Trey Lance there and Cooper Rush, and if they decide they don't want to go with Dak, well, they can't trade him because they have the no trade clause, and they're not going to tag him. So again, there's not a whole lot of leverage for Dallas, and so I think given that and the fact that, like you said, we know what Dak is. He's not a Mahomes or a Josh Allen or a Lamar Jackson, but he's a very good upper echelon quarterback. And with that, to me, the type of leader he is, the fact that he's only 30 years old, 31 years old, I just think it's going to happen.
Talking to Jordan Schultz right now, in the game of likely or unlikely, it feels right now that it's unlikely Kirk Cousins is back in Minnesota. I kind of think he's going to sign with the Atlanta Falcons, and the Falcons will be aggressive. How likely do you think it is that Kirk will get another deal done with Minnesota?
Before the Achilles, I thought there was a real opportunity that they could extend him and maybe he finishes his career in Minnesota. Now, to your point, I mentioned this earlier on Bleacher, I think Atlanta makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. Number one is he has a lot of family there. His wife's family is from there. He's from there. He spends a lot of time in the offseason there. But also, they just brought in Zach Robinson as the OC. And the bridge there is that Robinson comes from the Rams, which is Sean McVay. Kevin O'Connell, his coach in Minnesota, also runs a very similar offense. So there would be a lot of synergy there right away. And the fact that Atlanta has really good young weapons with Algier and Robinson and Pitts and obviously Drake London. I just think Atlanta is a tailor-made situation where if they were to bring in someone like Kirk Cousins, that's a 10-11 win team next season. They have a good roster. They have a good offensive line. And I think the Falcons, to me, make probably the most sense for Kirk Cousins. But I wouldn't say that they're a lock. I wouldn't say it's a lock that he's not in Minnesota next year. I know he's talked about his allegiances to the city and to the franchise, and I know there's a lot of good synergy there as well. But you also have Justin Jefferson, who he himself wants to reset the receiver market and essentially get more than Tyreek Hill. So let's say that's 31 or 30 and change million. So there's a lot of moving parts in Minnesota. I think Harrison Smith's likely to be cut. They have to figure out what they're going to do with Danielle Hunter. But that's a team that won 7 straight, looked like a playoff team down the stretch. And you can make the argument both sides. But I just think, in my opinion, Kirk Cousins there's a legit shot that he's playing somewhere else next year. And the Falcons, to me, probably make the most sense.
When we get to Russell Wilson, it's inevitable he's going to get released, as Jordan Schultz is here with us from Bleacher Report. It's inevitable that Russ is going to get released from the Broncos, unless you have other information that we're not aware of. Where could you see maybe a fit or two for Russell Wilson in his next chapter?
I think Pittsburgh is a team that I would monitor. I think there was a report that they don't want to go after a veteran. I don't know about that. I think, Pittsburgh is a lot of possibilities there. I don't see the Raiders. I know that team has been floated a lot. I just don't see that being a fit. To your point about Russell Wilson, I mean, there's really no doubt in my mind, considering where we're at. And I reported, a couple months back that, on October 31st, 2 days after he beats the Chiefs, Sean Payton, George Payton, they go to him. They say, if you don't defer your $37 million in injury guarantees, we're going to make you inactive. And then they had that soap opera internally the rest of the season. So, and I don't really believe, honestly, Zach, that Sean Payton ever really wanted Russell Wilson there. And so, to me, to your point, I think it's pretty understood league-wide that he'll be playing somewhere else next year. So really it comes down to, what does Russell Wilson want? He doesn't really need the money per se. He's going to get all that guarantee money from Denver. And to me, it's, I think, adding to his resume. He already has won Super Bowl. If I'm him, I'm thinking, what organization gives me the best opportunity to contend, knowing that, money isn't at this point the number one factor for me. And I mentioned Pittsburgh potentially. I mean, Atlanta's another one. But he's going to have to make that decision ultimately of what's the number one priority for him and then go from there. I think he's a starting quarterback. I mean, 27 touchdowns last year. He was probably a top 10, top 12 quarterback for most of the season. They won 5 straight at one point. So I think he's a starting quarterback, and there's no question about that.
I know a lot of these teams could probably cross over as we're wrapping up with Jordan Schultz's great job for Bleacher Report. Everyone kind of expects the Bears to take Williams at 1 and they'll trade Justin Fields. Who do you think the teams are that will most heavily pursue Justin Fields when he becomes available via trade?
Well, not to double down on Atlanta again, but the Falcons, there is absolutely a building buzz among the NFL that the Falcons would be in play for Justin Fields. Obviously, he's from Gainesville, Georgia, and grew up there. And the Falcons, another team. When I think about Atlanta with Justin Fields, there's something about a backfield shared by him and Bijan Robinson that really gets me fired up. I see it. You can really see how that could materialize and be something super special. I think Chicago's in a position where it's probably more than likely they're going to reset the clock, get Caleb Williams number 1, maybe get another wide receiver to complement DJ Moore, and then build their roster out from there. But they have so many needs. And it's my understanding that Fields at this point probably commands a late first-round pick. So you can get real value for him and ideally allow him to restart his career somewhere else. I still believe, Zach, I don't know where you're at on this, but I still believe that Justin Fields' talent is so robust that in the right system with the right coordinator, he could be a super special quarterback. He just hasn't really had it in Chicago. So to me, I know we've talked about Atlanta a lot, but that's a franchise that I think is really hungry for a quarterback. And I like Desmond Ridder. Last season's performance, I don't know if they can go into next year. And they've already talked about Terry Fontenot wanting a new quarterback. So the Falcons, to me, are going to be in play for a lot of these guys, including Cousins and Fields.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Arthur Blank at the Super Bowl, and he told me that he likes his roster and he thinks they're just a quarterback away. So since we've thrown Atlanta out there for a lot of destinations for quarterbacks, I wonder, Jordan, do you think Kirk would be better there, or do you think it would be Justin Fields? I lean more Kirk because I think he's more of a sure thing, but where do you fall on that if you had to pick between one of them?
I would like – this is just me. I'm not sourcing this. I would like to see Fields. I really would. I just think they have so much team speed and playmaking on offense. And Cousins is a really good quarterback, but he's going to sit in the pocket and rely on guys to win. But with Fields, you add the dynamic. Now, he doesn't have the throwing prowess of Cousins, but he does have a really good strong arm, and he has proven to be able to throw the ball down the field with time. You have that offensive line. I think if you line him up with Bijan, with Algier, with those weapons, a healthy Kyle Pitts, to me, that's just the upside is higher. I guess the floor is probably higher with Cousins, but the upside is higher with Fields. And if I'm the Falcons and I'm Arthur Blank, who's 82 years old, wants to win now, I like the idea of swinging for the fences.
Do you believe that Saquon, Derrick Henry, and Josh Jacobs will all be on new teams? It seems like Derrick Henry absolutely will, but how about Saquon and Josh Jacobs?
I think Henry, yes. Jacobs, I'd say more than likely, yes, but not a slam dunk. And then Saquon, to me, is probably the most interesting. I really don't see a scenario where the Giants tag him when that number is. I think he's going to have an opportunity at 27 to really cash in. And I know that the free agency market for running backs has been super rough, Zach, the last few years. But I think there's a real shot that Saquon finds a home elsewhere with real money. It's not going to be what it was 10, 15 years ago, but it's going to be good money, and I think he's earned it. He has been one of the best running backs in the league. And I know last year he missed about a month, but incredibly productive over the last 2 seasons. And because he can catch the football, because he can block, and I've had Giants guys tell me that throughout all of the hardship they've experienced last season, Saquon was the heartbeat. That was the guy that every day was consistently uplifting people. He was the heartbeat of the team. And I just think he's going to be too valuable in free agency. And I just think given the Giants' holes, it's probably there's a real shot that he moves on and finds another home with real money.
Now, I made 2 predictions when it comes to wide receivers. As much as I would like to see Mike Evans stay with Tampa Bay, I've seen some of your reporting on it. I don't think it's likely. I have Mike Evans going to Houston this offseason, and then with Calvin Ridley, I have him taking a 2-year deal, good guaranteed money there, and going to Kansas City. How actively involved do you think the Chiefs and Texans will be for a wide receiver?
Okay, so the Texans, I think, it's one of those where you would love to give C.J. Stroud one more weapon. They obviously had a lot of success last year with Tank Dell and Nico Collins. They have a running back who had a good year in Devin Singletary. He's a free agent, and Dalton Schultz had a really good year. He's a free agent. So I think Houston it's not like a huge need, but it would be a nice addition. So I think they'll be active in wide receiver money, but the money is going to be the real factor. And you mentioned Calvin Ridley. So it's important to note, Jacksonville can actually retain that second-round pick from Atlanta if they bring him back, but they have to do it and allow Ridley to become a free agent. So I know there was some confusion yesterday, and it is true. If they sign him, extend him before free agency, they have to give a second-round pick comp to Atlanta for that trade. But if they wait, there is a possibility that they bring him back. With that said, I think those are 2 of the top free agent names. Obviously, Pittman, T. Higgins, Gabe Davis, but you could see Pittman and Higgins getting tagged. Evans, to me, is such a special player because you know what he's going to give you. He's going to give you 80 catches, 1,000 yards, 6, 7, 8 touchdowns. And I think because of his consistency, he has a chance to get a massive contract. He's 30, 31 years old. This is the time to cash in. Ridley's 29. He's going to get a lot of money as well. I think the Chiefs are certainly going to be players for a receiver, considering they're their only consistent weapons last year from a receiving standpoint were Kelsey and Rashee Rice. So get one more guy and help Patrick Mahomes. So I think the Chiefs and Texans will be active, but I'll give you some other teams I know are really interested in receivers and potentially in Mike Evans. The Jets, the Lions, the Panthers, and the Patriots. Those would be 4 I would watch as well.
The Lions and the Jets, that would really be something.
Well, I think the Jets are really hell-bent on getting another weapon for Aaron Rodgers and having him opposite Garrett Wilson. And the reason I like Evans is because he's a different type of receiver than Wilson. You know, Wilson is kind of that classic X, super smooth. Evans has that big frame who's awesome inside the 20s. They're totally different receivers who can really do a lot of different things. And I think the idea of pairing Wilson with Evans for Aaron Rodgers is special. I think they need to upgrade their offensive line. They need to get a backup running back to help Breece Hall, but the Jets are certainly going to be in play for wide receiver and certainly going to have an opportunity to spend some money on the position.
He's a man with a ton of NFL information. He does a great job for Bleacher Report. He is Jordan Schultz. Jordan, always appreciate your insight and perspective. Thank you.
I love the show, Zach. Happy to come on anytime. Appreciate it.
You got it. Thanks so much. There he is, the sensational Jordan Schultz from Bleacher Report. Whole lot to unpack from that one. We'll get to it on the other side. Coming on back in 5 minutes.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Now back to the Zach Gelb Show.
We'll play this for you coming up in about 15 minutes, but we have a new wrinkle in the Doc Rivers-J.J. Redick feud. So, just to recap, Doc Rivers wasn't taking accountability and was saying how tough it is to go in mid-season to a team. J.J. Redick sounded off how Doc Rivers never takes accountability, which I find fascinating, because J.J. Redick is replacing Doc Rivers in the broadcast booth because Doc took the job with Milwaukee, and also Doc used to coach J.J. Redick. So you have former player, former coach going at one another, and now they were doing this, the job that Doc left to do is now the job that J.J. is taking over that used to be held by Doc. But also Austin Rivers, the son of Doc Rivers, is on ESPN today, and he was giving his 2 cents about J.J. Redick going after his dad in Doc Rivers. And J.J. Redick, let me remind you, is now a coworker of Austin Rivers. So, man, that's a lot to follow. We'll play you the Austin Rivers response coming up in about 10 to 15 minutes. I did make the point, and I'll make it again, that I do find it ironic and funny that J.J. Redick is going after Doc Rivers for not taking accountability, but then some of those players who were involved in the shortcomings of those teams that led to Doc Rivers getting fired, like James Harden and Paul George, they never took accountability. But do you ever hear J.J. Redick calling out those players, only calling out the coach? And that's a big problem in the NBA. It is a league where, and I think this is what gets it so much coverage, it's all about the drama. The NBA is kind of like the Dallas Cowboys, where they care more about the drama rather than the wins and the losses. And in the NBA, it's always a giant game of finger pointing. And in the NBA, it's a lot of big blame game at times. So I find it funny that JJ is trying to be the person that holds everyone accountable here, but you would never hear him go after James Harden or Paul George. So, is what it is. Anywho, let's get back to the Dallas Cowboys. We opened up the show with this report by Jordan Schultz, who just joined us a few moments ago, that Dak Prescott could command a contract this year up to $60 million. Whether you think he's worth it or not, he's going to get something outrageous this offseason because of where the cap hit is. They owe him, the salary cap this year will take up $60 million, almost $60 million, 59 and change on the cap if they keep him at this current deal. So he has the leverage. He's going to cash in, and they'll move those numbers around. But Micah Parsons has been popping off. He was on with us at the Super Bowl. You may have heard about that interview. And he trashed T.J. Watt, and he said T.J. Watt isn't a top 5 pass rusher. I don't understand how you could say that. Then he was on with Stephen A. Smith the other day, and he said outside of Patrick Mahomes, how are the quarterbacks in the AFC more accomplished than Dak Prescott? Now, I responded to that earlier by saying, just for starters, Lamar Jackson's won 2 MVPs. Dak Prescott hasn't won 1. So that's a quarterback that's more accomplished. Whether you think that's a big deal or not, that's up to you, but it's still being more accomplished and having more accolades. Joe Burrow's been in a Super Bowl. Farthest Dak Prescott's ever has gone has been into the second round of the playoffs. And I know some people say, oh, well, how is Josh Allen different from Dak Prescott? Well, Josh Allen's a better quarterback. And also, Josh Allen at least has been in an AFC title game where Dak Prescott hasn't even got to a conference championship game. So the arguments and the takes, I respect the takes from Micah Parsons, but the argument has to be a little bit more solid. Now, here is Micah Parsons on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Let's go to this other piece of audio. He was asked to comment on DeMarcus Lawrence saying a big reason why you saw the Cowboys just not show up against Green Bay Packers in the playoff game is because they were tired, and Parsons fired back at this one.
Yes, our teams play us like the Super Bowl. We are the Dallas Cowboys. But in the end, that's not a good enough reason or excuse to say that publicly. If you say that to someone else, one-on-one, you know what I'm saying, cameras off, sure, be my guest. But when I feel like once that regular season ends and they get in a playoff, you're supposed to get rejuvenated. Like, this is a whole new me, whole new you. Like, we need to get ready. And that's part of that culture stuff where I was talking about, where I want to dive into the players that we got to change. Like, you should never go into a game like I'm tired, like I'm ready to go home. Because that's exactly what's going to happen, and it did happen. That's part of the culture and identity that I just feel like we're missing. Like, that's just something like I don't agree with at all.
The Cowboys are the gift that keep on giving. Since their season ended, we had CeeDee Lamb's mother trashing the quarterback. We've had Micah Parsons' brother trash the quarterback. We've had Dak Prescott's brother trash Cowboys fans. You had Micah Parsons trash TJ Watt. And now you have Micah Parsons defending Dak Prescott, okay. But then in this interview with Stephen A. Smith, even though Micah is right that, being tired for the postseason shouldn't be an excuse and it's laughable, the guy that said it is DeMarcus Lawrence, who is an established, longtime Dallas Cowboys player. And now you have Micah Parsons having to respond for something stupid that DeMarcus Lawrence said. Whether it's true or not, that's a different story. And now Micah is calling the locker room pretty much into question. And last time I checked, it's only February 20th in the year of 2024. So we have a long ways to go until we see football return in September. And the Cowboys have already given us about 6 or 7 stories. So a few things off what Micah Parsons just said. I'll just ask this question. Do every team, when they go up against the Cowboys now, say, this is our Super Bowl? I don't know if you could play that card when you haven't won a Super Bowl since the 1995 season. I understand the Cowboys always bring attention, but maybe it's more so people are tired of the Cowboys just getting praise that, quite frankly, isn't deserved. And there's animosity with those other teams. So that's number one. Number two, just because now it's turning into a fight and Micah Parsons is voicing this publicly does not mean that he's wrong. Because I go back to a few years ago, the Cowboys didn't show up in the first half up against the Niners the first time they played them in the playoffs. And then this year they didn't show up in its entirety. So are they worn out at the end of the season? Is that what we're really chalking it up to? Can Mike McCarthy not get his team ready for the big game? Do the players not get up for the big game? And whatever the answer is true and whatever falls in that response, it doesn't line up for anything to really change going into next year for the Cowboys. Quarterback's going to be the same. The coach is going to be the same. And the defense is going to be good, but they're going to be overrated like they were this year. And I don't think anything's going to change. Like, the Cowboys will go win their 10, 11, 12 games this year. At a time for a 3-4 week stretch, we'll think they're an actual contender. And then when the postseason comes around, even if they win around, which they didn't last year, they did 2 years ago, the drama Dallas choking Cowboys will reappear. And the real Dallas Cowboys will stand up, and it will be another year where you see 2 other teams go to the NFC title game and 2 other teams go to the Super Bowl, and none of them will be named the Dallas Cowboys. This is this is a lame duck year for the Cowboys where you can't even expect any change. And I'm not saying they're going to miss the playoffs, but it wouldn't shock me if they did, even in an NFC that isn't that strong, because you're already hearing about some locker room problems. You got to see how the roster shapes out to be and who's going to be back and who's not. But when you have a long-term player and a young up-and-coming player who's dominant in Micah Parsons basically disagreeing on a philosophy, and I think Micah's more in the right here, and I can't believe DeMarcus Lawrence said what he said. And I did see some videos from Super Bowl week where Stephon Gilmore and Brandon Cooks couldn't believe it either, and both those guys are free agents. It's like, all right, is anything going to change? Because if that's true, there's a huge problem in the Dallas Cowboys locker room, and you keep on seeing a team not getting ready and not being prepared for the moment in a playoff game. You shouldn't need any extra incentive or any extra motivation for a playoff game, but I guess the Cowboys were too tired, and that's why they didn't show up against the Green Bay Packers, and why the go Pack go just absolutely kicked their ass in that football game. All righty, we'll come on back with the Austin Rivers audio. Also, there was one report yesterday that was making the rounds in the NBA Twitter world regarding Giannis Antetokounmpo, and I think it's bullcrap. We'll get to it on the other side. Update time here is the Ackman Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Well, there are more details surfacing about the shooting at the Chiefs parade. 2 more people were charged. Dominic Miller and Lindell Mays are facing charges of second-degree murder, 2 counts of armed criminal action, and unlawful use of a weapon. Authorities say they did not know each other previously, and it was Miller's gun that fired the shot that killed Lisa Lopez Galvin. Miller and Mays are both currently hospitalized. The 2 juveniles that were previously charged remain detained. The Patriots' Matthew Slater is retiring after 16 years in the NFL, all with New England. He is perhaps the best special teams player ever. Former coach Bill Belichick said as much. Slater made 10 Pro Bowls in those 16 seasons and was part of 3 Patriots championship teams. The 12-team college football playoff that'll take effect next year and the year after will feature the 5 highest-ranked conference champions and the next 7 highest-ranked teams after that. Top-ranked UConn goes for its 15th straight win tonight. The Huskies on the road against Creighton in Omaha, and the New York Rangers go for their 8th straight against the Central-leading Dallas Stars. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Hey, this is JR. Let's hang out weeknights here on CBS Sports Radio for my show, the JR Sport Brief, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh, my God, we're back again.
Coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. There we are. All right. It is the Zach Gelb Show right here, CBS Sports Radio. Let's get to Austin Rivers. So we were just talking about this before we got to the break. If you missed any of it, today I was not expecting a Doc Rivers, J.J. Redick feud, but here we are. Doc Rivers, I guess he said how tough it is to take over for a team in season. So J.J. Redick sounded off about that because Doc wasn't taking accountability for the losing going on in Milwaukee. I find this fight to be fascinating because Doc once coached J.J. Redick. They had some success together. And now J.J. Redick is the #1 color analyst for the NBA Finals and all the big ESPN ABC assignments because Doc took the job in Milwaukee and he was originally going to be calling the NBA Finals. So JJ gets this promotion because Doc left, even though JJ was the #2 broadcaster and the #2 color analyst. So JJ fires back at Doc and basically torches him. Now, also working for ESPN is Austin Rivers, who is the son of Doc Rivers and I guess a coworker of J.J. Redick. And here is Austin Rivers now firing back at J.J. Redick. So if you got all that and you're still keeping it up with us, here is Austin Rivers.
First off, I don't feel responsible to take off. He's a grown man. He could do his own thing. But in this regard, I just simply don't agree with it. For someone who's not accountable, he seems to always be held responsible, considering he's the guy that's always fired when things don't go right. He got fired in the bubble for a 3-1 lead versus the Denver Nuggets, which in half his team didn't want to be there. Then he gets fired for losing to a team that was favored over him, which was the Celtics last year. It seems like he's always responsible. It's just as strange coming from JJ. And I have some love for JJ. You're my dookie. You know that. You're my bro. I love you. This just seems a little bit weird. The pressure is there. They do have to perform. But in terms of accountability, like, what are we doing here? Your best years in the NBA were when you played for him in the Clippers. I don't know if there's like frustration there or there's tension there between you. I know a lot of times we had to sit you towards the end of the game due to defensive reasons. It's just very ironic and kind of weird that you have this energy towards him in terms of him never, ever being accountable, considering he's always been responsible. That would be my response.
So 2 things. I'll give you my fun comment and then my serious comment. My fun comment is I love the defensive jab at J.J. Redick because that speaks to the root probably of these problems, at least from the Doc Rivers side of it. The other part is, and it's funny because Austin Rivers, right, he attended Duke, right, love for the Dukies and all that. You would think he would know the difference between accountability and then responsibility because you could get held responsible for it and still not take accountability. Like, for example, let's say Spike Eskin comes to me tomorrow and says, Zach, we're firing you at CBS Sports Radio. And if
the Sam Turns 2 show is happening.
Oh, jeez. Produced by Shep?
Don't go anywhere.
But let's just say Spike came to me and fired me. And then I do an interview with awful announcing Barrett Sports Media. Man, this was a terrible decision. I did nothing wrong. I got screwed. I was held responsible for something, but I didn't take any accountability. And I don't want to defend J.J. Redick because I find J.J. Redick to be insufferable on these broadcasts and on these shows because he never says anything positive and he never smiles at all. But there is a difference between getting held accountable or taking accountability and then being held responsible for something. But then once again, I raise this point. Why didn't J.J. Redick show this same energy for James Harden, who took no accountability for the Sixers being where they were? Or Paul George, for why Doc Rivers got fired. Because if you remember that report, Doc Rivers wasn't on the good side of Kawhi Leonard and Paul George because he wanted them to show up more, like at practice and things like that. And he thought they had to take it a little bit more seriously. And the same thing happened with James Harden as well. I think that's a very fair ask for the coach. I'm not saying Doc Rivers is completely exonerated of all this, and Doc Rivers is not as good of a coach as you think he is, and I did not like this move by the Milwaukee Bucks, but I do find it laughable that everyone preaching about accountability doesn't really hold the same level of accountability for others that the way that they're talking about the person that they want accountability to be shown for. Now, this did not really make the rounds, but I read this, and it doesn't surprise me that this is being said, but I'm going to stand up for the city of Milwaukee right now. Because this is the crap that small markets have to go through. Even when their star player keeps on signing contract extensions. Shams Charania is throwing out there that the Warriors' dream acquisition this offseason would be Giannis Antetokounmpo. So it's one thing to dream about something, but it's another thing to then say it when you are a reporter. And I don't see why you would really give this story legs when Giannis just signed a contract extension and he keeps on doubling and tripling and quadrupling down on Milwaukee. Like, for example, I want to, I used this line yesterday, so I'll use it again. I want to date Margot Robbie. I want to date Beyonce. It doesn't mean that Andrew Marchand is going to put out an article tonight, oh, Zach Gelb wants to date Margot Robbie and Beyonce, because it's unrealistic. And the Warriors, they may dream to get Giannis Antetokounmpo this offseason, but it's unrealistic, especially when Giannis Antetokounmpo just got a new extension. And then also, by the way, just got Damian Lillard too. The Bucks, he won a championship with them, and the Bucks have done everything that he's asked. And I talked to someone actually the other day, and I'll keep this person anonymous, but they said about this report, not a good sign when there's zero to write about, and you have to make this up. Silly. That's what the person said to me when I did send them this story yesterday, and I won't give you any hints of who this person could be. And that person is 100% right. It is silly that the Bucks fan, when everything has gone their way with Giannis, and he keeps on showing his loyalty to Milwaukee, and I'm not saying he's going to finish his career there, but that's their dream scenario this offseason, so it has to be reported. All it shows you is that, and Shams is clearly getting used by someone in the Warriors, right? That's their dream scenario. It has to be coming from someone with the Warriors. The Warriors also were the same team that tried to call the Lakers to get LeBron. And I think that's more likely in this offseason that LeBron goes and signs with the Warriors if he opts out. And we've seen the Warriors now throw out their Giannis Antetokounmpo. It means that the Warriors are star hunting this offseason because you have a window with Steph Curry. Klay Thompson is past his prime. His deal's up. You just gave a new deal to Draymond Green, which I thought was foolish. And maybe the Warriors will learn with what they didn't do with Draymond now here with Klay, that you can't pay people for what they did off the past. You have to pay what they'll do heading into the future. But when you keep on throwing out reports, and it keeps on saying the Warriors are interested in this person, the Warriors are interested in that person, that means the Warriors are going to do something big this offseason. And I mean really big, because they realize Steph is still an elite player. Steph is still an all-time great. Steph is still phenomenal. And you're not maximizing his championship window. I do think it's more likely, though, that, and here's the hot take, that LeBron James is going to wind up with the Warriors and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Oh, big bad hot take from Zach Gelb. I just don't see why there would be any merit, because the Warriors want Giannis, and that's their dream player, which I see why people are going to run with this. Because, I want to win the lottery. It doesn't mean that I'm going to win the lottery. There is a difference of what you want, what you desire, and then what actually will happen. And I don't see any way this offseason, just for this offseason, that Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to say, I want out of the Milwaukee Bucks, when they keep on giving him everything that he wants. Everything. And I know so far, right, they already had a coach fired this year, and I know people are down on Milwaukee with Doc Rivers, and I get why. But this is still a team that's 35-21 when the regular season means jack for them, and they just need to be healthy come postseason time. And they have a good chance to get to the NBA Finals, even with Boston standing in their way. Right now, Boston's a favorite. But if you tell me Boston doesn't get there, the next team that I would say gets to the NBA Finals out of the East would be the Milwaukee Bucks. You got Bucks loss? Alrighty, there we go. That's how we'll end the show out today. We'll be back tomorrow on a Wednesday. Final show for me of the week tomorrow, as I'm off Thursday and Friday. And the newest member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Dwight Freeney, is going to be joining us. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for listening and interacting with the program. You can always follow us on social media, Instagram and Twitter, at Zach Gelb, ZACHGELB. Big thanks to Stu, and big thanks to Moist Mike. All righty, everybody. We will see you tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Have a great Tuesday evening. JR coming up next. We out. Bye-bye.